2 weeks in a row. You greedy pigs. You definitely don't deserve it. But I guess I'm doing it anyways. Out of the kindness of my heart, I will do multiple weeks in a row. And not only multiple weeks in a row, you're getting multiple episodes in a row this week. One today, one Friday, in theory, one Monday, except for I'm not committing to that fully. Welcome back to whatever this is now. By myself, a lonely man sitting in his room, recording a podcast. As I said, you're probably going to say that last episode, I promised if the next episode doesn't say best of 2021, something horribly went wrong. Well, this isn't the best of 2021. However, something didn't go wrong. I just had too much to do on one episode, and I don't feel like doing a 4-hour episode by myself. So I'm going to do bits and pieces here and there, and the next episode will be the first half of Best of 2021. The third episode will be the actual top 10 of 2021, and this one's going to be just all the other stuff I had to get out of the way. Sadly, there won't be any disgusting or weird Asian snacks that almost make me throw up on air, because I didn't purchase any for this episode. And since I'm recording them all at once, I won't have time to get any in between. So don't expect gross snacks for a while. Sorry for all of the devoted ASMR listeners, but it's not going to happen. I guess I'll do this at the beginning instead of the last episode like I did last time. Obviously, this is still called the worst year of our lives, although it's the worst year of my life. But I'm not going to change it to that. Will there be a rebrand? Who's to say? But as it stands, this is still the worst year of our lives. Myself and a ghost, a silent ghost. You can follow me on social media, Instagram, Sarian Softpaws, Twitter for now, Sarian Softpaws, Letterboxd, also Sarian Softpaws. If you would like to give your hard-earned financial gains to me and close your eyes and pretend like you're giving it to Scott, we can do that. PayPal.me/Sarian Softpaws. I'm going to make the executive decision that if people still want to, I will start doing all request live spectaculars. I will do ones by myself if people request, or I can get a guest if people want. Like I said, I do have a few people that would be willing to do a podcast, and I can get them to watch whatever, and we can do it. For now, because I'm doing you all a great service and favor, because last time around for the last couple, all requests were $100 American dollars for one request at no more than 2 hours and 10 minutes. However, that was because the money was going to 2 people. So I will do a very limited time special offer that if you want just me to review something, I will do it for 50 of your American dollars. If you want me to do it with a partner, then it will be 100 of your American dollars. That's a great deal. You know what? People always say I have the best deals. I have the greatest deals. I always do them. Everybody always comes to me and says, how do you do such great deals? Because I always do great deals. Then that's your option right there. So if you want to do that, you can start sending them in to me. Like I said, paypal.me/Sarian Softpaws. 2 hours and 10 minutes maximum would be the requested time. And I'll start doing those after I get these episodes done, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 to go. So in, what day is it today? 20. Holy shit, 26th. Time flies when you're not having fun. So I think I'll try, depending on if they come in very slowly and everybody's not into it, then it'll just be as they come. But if I start getting several, then I will aim to start trying to do it in April 2nd, I guess, in theory, is when I would start doing it. So if you want to send those in, go right ahead and I'll figure it out as I go, because podcast is traditionally known for its lack of preparation. And I'm not going to start doing it now. I'm going to, before we start getting into everything else, I will say that I'm glad so many people listened to the last episode. Thank you very much, and for commenting, and for making me feel like I'm doing a good job, even though I still don't think I am. I'm going to pop open the ceremonial energy drink. Unfortunately, where I went grocery shopping yesterday very much had a lack of options. So my choices were completely unknown to me reason why, but everybody seems to online like them. The white Monster, which I've had, and just to me just tastes like zero sugar Monster. So am I missing something? Is there like a gag or a reference I don't get because I'm an old man? But it was either regular Monster, white zero sugar Monster, or Rain Energy Rainbow Sherbets, which I'm fine with. I don't hate them. I believe are they a Canadian thing? I think they're a Canadian thing, or I don't know, whatever. So yeah, the Rainbow Sherbet is the one today. Oh, it got me in the face. Anywho, so got a lot to cover today, mostly movie related. So if you want movie related stuff, you're going to get movie related stuff. I will say that as of an hour ago, because again, this is the news. An hour ago, the big orange man once again pushed back imposing tariffs for another month. Because he's a fucking idiot who doesn't actually know anything about anything, or how anything works, or how to implement things, or how they'll actually affect his company or country. So there you go. There's that big dumb idiot. Our shockingly RIP to somebody the same age as me that I literally learned as I opened my phone to start doing this. Michelle Trachtenberg died. That's crazy. Same age as me. And then I don't know if I have any other. I was kind of like in the process of looking up things, because I'm like, hey, there's got to be some funny news and shit out there. But yeah, I didn't look too hard, and I also, because I knew I had so many things going on, movie-related stuff, I just didn't have time. So I'm sorry if you live in the United States of America and the current political climate is not exactly fun for you or your loved ones. But I would love to say it gets better, but eventually, maybe... hopefully it'll get better. Hang tight. We'll see what happens. I would say thoughts and prayers for you, but I'm not allowed to have a religious point of view on this podcast anymore. I've been silenced by big religion. And also, I think a very funny thing that I noticed while I was looking for news and on stuff on Twitter is that now they're starting to push. There's so many Truth Social ads on Twitter, which is insane for one social media platform. I mean, yes, obviously I understand who owns Twitter and all the political stuff behind that business, but it's just so funny that they're pushing another social media platform that it says the #1 free speech social media platform is now available as a native Android app. In the year 2021, the media pendulum has swung dangerously far to the left. And it's like, sure, that might have been true for a brief period of time, but hey, Truth Social, have you been checking out Twitter in the last year? Because I don't think you're #1 anymore. I think you're #2. But it's just so funny that they're like actively pushing it on this platform to, hey, go get this other platform where you can say the real truths, but also don't look on Twitter for the real truth because you'll still also find it. And also it's not available to download in Canada, so I wouldn't be able to get it even if I jokingly wanted to. Yeah, so there's that. I would love to talk about hockey, but I know nobody wants to hear about it, so I'm not gonna, although I would love to. Oscars season is almost completed. It's in the very last, it's in stage 4. It's stage 4 Oscar season, and the awards are on Sunday, which you are hearing this today, which is Wednesday. And I've been powerhousing through the nominations that I haven't seen. I still have a couple more that I'm going to try and do, I guess, tonight or the next couple days, because I really do got to get through them. I did a beautiful Latvian animation film, Flow, which is nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best International Feature. It was beautiful. It played kind of like a very basic indie developed video game that you can play very chill like without having to really think that hard or pay that much attention to, but it kind of like kills several hours of your night, which is fun. I would say it's like Stray, but Stray is a little bit more puzzly, complexy, I guess. But all the characters are really interesting, like the designs of the characters and just the way that the whole world worked and everything was beautiful. I have not watched any of Gintz Zilbalodits's other films. I think there's one, Away is the one that I've heard of, and then there's a couple of like shorts, I think. I haven't seen any of them yet. They are on my list, but obviously I've got so many other things to do. But yeah, visually beautiful. Then I went ahead and finally got around to Sean Baker's Anora, which I think in the past, if you'd listened to this podcast, is that Scott and I were very big fans of Sean Baker's work. Between Tangerine, which I love, and I believe was my number 9 or 10 for 2015. And then the 2017's The Florida Project, which we both really liked. I wish I had it up on my phone, but I don't believe it wasn't in my best for 2017. I don't remember if it was on Scott's. I wonder if it's on my phone here, just really quickly. The only reason it wasn't is because I really hated the last like 5 minutes of the movie where they like snuck into Disneyland or Disney World and like handheld camera filmed like nothing, like just the kids sitting on a bench because they were like, hey, gorilla style. I was like, yeah, fine, but like, I don't know, I didn't think it was a great ending and it looked kind of terrible, right? And then he has a 2021 movie that may or may not be getting mentioned on the next episode, so hang on to that. And yeah, so this one obviously a little bit bigger, I would say a grander scale of what he has done in the past, because Tangerine is like sex workers in Los Angeles, but there is a very like gritty kind of like I mean, I've already said gorilla, but like, you know, a very gritty, like just do it without permits and run around and film kind of like lower budget thing. And then Florida Project was like very limited to like kind of a one location, very like small setup, not a lot of like major characters. And then you get one big actor to kind of, I guess there was a couple like named actors, but like you get Willem Dafoe to kind of like be the big focus of your film. And then the other one, we'll talk about that one, but that one's, so you got California, Florida, Texas, and then now New York. So he's just kind of doing like smaller people's lives in kind of like shitty circumstances in these cities. But Anora's kind of different. It's a little bit more of a grander scale, a little bit bigger production. I mean, they have a lot more sets, so there's a lot more like visually on screen. There's a lot more money in the production. which is fine. It's not like it hurted anything at all. I will say literally the only thing that made me not necessarily like the film is that Mikey Madison as Honora is the most insufferable, annoying, every time she opened her mouth, I was just like, I understand this is who the character is, but for me, I'm not enjoying her screaming at the top of her lungs, cutting out over top of everybody else's dialogue. So I know she's the focus of the movie, but for me, I want to hear what the fuck is happening. And when she's just screaming over the top of everybody, I can't really, you're not paying attention to any of the other dialogue or plot pieces or anything that's going on. And it just the one scene where there's a scene where all of the goons of the father show up to get him, and he runs, and they're just trapped. They're left alone in the house with her. And that entire scene, I literally just turned subtitles on and I muted it, because there is a 5-minute period where she is just screaming at the top of her lungs, and the other characters then have to scream over her. And I was like, I fucking hate this. This is so fucking annoying. And so, I completely muted that scene and just read the subtitles for what they were talking about. But yeah, I did really like the story, and visually it was incredible. It looked awesome. The what am I trying to say? The house that they lived in, and just the travel around at night and everything was really cool. The first 30 minutes is kind of it's just honestly kind of like a music video, more or less. I mean, yes, there's dialogue and there's character interactions, but it's just they're in clubs, they're doing drugs, they're drinking, they're partying, they're going to a casino. It's just kind of hey, this is, we only have a couple days in these locations. Let's just literally film a bunch of shit, and then that can just be the beginning of the movie. Not that that's bad. I'm not saying that's a bad way to do the film, but just I don't know. It's a longer movie than I would like it to be, but I always complain about length, so whatever. But visually speaking, it was good. I just didn't really care for the lengthy music video at the beginning. And then the only real bummer about it was there was a point towards the end, or just into the third act, where he's gone missing and they go to try and find him. And then when they do find him, he's at a strip club, and that very one-hit wondery famous Tattoo song, which is a Russian fake lesbian girl group from the early 2000s. You get the opening 20 seconds of the song, but before it actually gives the kick into the song, it stops, and I was like, oh, what a fucking cock tease. You give us almost all the good part of the Tattoo song, but you cut it off before we actually get to it. You son of a bitch. But anyways, yeah, so I did enjoy it. I just did not enjoy her performance. And then I saw Sing Sing, which is nominated for quite a few things, including Coleman Domingo for lead actor. I honestly was going into this expecting not to like it. No, sorry, maybe that's the wrong phrasing. I shouldn't say not to like it. I went into it expecting it to be kind of something I had already seen, the subject matter is a black man in prison who's in there under falsely accused, and he's fighting his case, and then it's just sort of the lives of the prisoners in the prison as they all deal with their situations. And there was even a documentary that came out earlier this year that I kind of thought would get a nomination for best documentary feature, which is called Daughters. And I watched it because I thought okay, I'll get ahead of some of these things, and then it wasn't nominated. And I mean, it was a good documentary as well. I'm kind of surprised it didn't get nominated, because it feels like the kind of thing that the Academy likes to recognize. But I was really expecting to just be okay, I've seen this before. I'll kind of probably only half pay attention to it, because again, it's it's a story that needs to be told in theory, but also has already been told a million times, in a dramatic fashion. But it was completely different than what I thought it would be. And especially after I realized that all of the main most of the main like actual convicts in the little group are like the real guys who were like did the actual performances and acting and stuff in the plays in the prison, and then are now like in the movie. Like that was after I kind of realized that, I was like, oh, like that's pretty cool, because like all these guys are pretty good. Like none of them really stood out as being like bad or out of place, which was crazy, especially like the sort of main I mean, I don't want to say antagonist, because like the antagonist is the system, but like the main rival to Coleman Domingo's character is this guy named Clarence Macklin, who again I was like, okay, I saw him and I was like, I don't know who this guy is, and then afterwards reading up on everything, and that he, you know, he's essentially playing a fictionalized version of himself. He's gotten out of prison, he's like a youth pastor now, and he helps young black men get like, you know, out of bad situations and recover their lives and everything, which was cool because like he was pretty good. Like he was honestly really good. I think him not getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor is maybe one of the bigger snubs of this year. I mean, I looking at the list, I don't know who he necessarily replaces, because they're all relatively, like, they're all really good performances. I know who I'm voting for to win, so I don't know who I would necessarily put him in over. Granted, I have not seen the Bob Dylan one because I don't give a fuck about, I mean, I'm going to have to watch it, but I don't give a fuck about Bob Dylan, so I don't know. I assume Ed Norton's good because it's Ed Norton. Maybe the Yura Borisov guy from Anora, maybe, just because like he's not really in it that much until like almost the halfway point, and then he's like in it, but he doesn't really have a lot of line. Like, I don't know. I'm not against him because he's in a movie. He's a Russian actor who, or maybe a Belarusian actor, I don't know. He's a Russian actor who's in an Andrei Zvyagintsev movie that Scott and I both love called Elena. But oh boy, why am I so burpy? And then this Oscars is very much like maybe we should have been more woke, and by woke I mean like, hey, pay attention to the politics and the way people act away from the movie that they filmed. As I'm sure everyone has heard about the Emilia Perez stuff, but yeah, I guess he got a lot of backlash because he's very much like as people have called him, a like Kremlin puppet, and like he's pro Russia against the invading in Ukraine and blah blah blah. But like, and it's the same thing with, I'm just gonna quickly get onto the hockey topic here that nobody wants to talk about, but because there was a big international tournament, and by big I mean it's called the Four Nations, and they took Finland, Sweden, Canada, USA, and put them into like a little tournament. Instead of playing an NHL All-Star game, they played that, and it was widely successful. Everybody, even outside of hockey but in the sports world, has talked about how incredible it was and how everything was great. And I even said it before, I was like, yeah, I don't really give a fuck about watching this. The All-Star games are boring, and I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And then I ended up watching like all the Canada games, so I was like, okay, I guess I obviously got sucked into this. Anyways, there's always talk about like best on best is the whole point of the tournament, right? Is like the best teams play the best teams. And the problem with it is that because of the invasion of Ukraine, that Russia hasn't been able to participate in the Olympic Games under an Olympic flag, which is fine, I understand, but the athletes still can. But then as far as like the International Hockey Federation, Russia's also banned from participating in like there's every year there's a big World Juniors tournament for the players that are U20, and then there's other big international tournaments that happen all year round between all these other countries, and Russia isn't allowed to participate in them because of that. And like there's definitely two sides to the argument to that, which is kind of bringing me back to this guy's nomination, is that I you can understand why okay, like, let's take Russia out of there. We don't even want Russia's name. I mean, Belarus is also not allowed, but nobody gives a fuck about Belarus. But like, you don't want Russia's name included in things. You don't want people to be like watching the Russian like flag fly or hear the anthem if they win or whatever. Like, that's definitely a part of the conversation. But like, I mean, a lot of it too is like, I guess it's more from a standpoint of like the under 20s. I mean, they're kids, right? They're teenagers for the most part, and a lot of them live in like, you know, they live in other countries and play in other countries, and you know, like you're punishing some people who are not even remotely connected or responsible to something, which I think is very terrible. And also the fact that, like, you know, one of my favorite directors of the last 10 years, which I mentioned, Andrei Zvyagintsev, has made like some incredible movies that they're very Russian movies, right? There's no political stance to them, but like, even if I found out that he was like a Kremlin puppet, I'm still going to say like, okay, but he's making incredible movies. It's like right now, Alexander Ovechkin, who's like the biggest Russian player probably of all time, is about to break the all-time goals record for the entire league. And obviously he's Russian, and he's also very friendly with Putin. But that's like the other side of that argument, that is like, can you really blame them? Because like everybody else who's very critical of any of those like Eastern European sort of, you know, dictators, I guess we can call them, or like, you know, political oligarchs or powerhouses or whatever, anybody who's really critical of them, their life isn't really good. And some of them don't get to keep having a life. So I don't really blame people for putting on, like, if it's true, listen, that's fine. It's your political beliefs. It's your country. It's your leader. And you may or may not be getting the correct information. You might be getting no information. That's not the point of it. Is just like, we in the West can't look at it and be like, hey, you're doing the wrong thing. But it's like, yeah, but from my perspective, we're not doing the wrong thing. And, you know, that's kind of the unfortunate argument of it. And so, like, even if this guy is if he is or isn't truthfully like pro Putin, pro Kremlin, the invasion in Ukraine, like, sure. But like, what he's doing is acting in a movie as a Russian gang, like kind of bodyguard gangster kind of guy. So it's like, is what he's doing really going to like affect the world of politics? No. And like, I know that's a big argument for like sports and hockey and the Olympics and stuff, is like, you can't give Russia this like victorious moment of like, yes, our athletes are dominating, or our world junior team won, or our Olympic team won. Like, there's the big argument about like, don't give them these big moments. But like, it, you know, I, as a Canadian, look at the United States and like, am I incredibly fucking happy that the United States lost the Four Nations? 100%. Do you think I want to listen to them gloat and like try and rub in the fact that like they've taken over the game and it's their game now and blah, blah, blah? Like, of course I don't want to hear that, right? But if they had won, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? They deserve to win. They played incredibly well in the whole tournament, and there were moments where Canada didn't play really well. And so you just have to live with it. And so I think that the argument of like, well, the guy, he should have his nomination rescinded because, you know, he's very pro-war in Ukraine. It's like, yeah, but that's his culture, his country. And if he does believe that, that's fine. And if he doesn't believe that, but he's doing it so that like, hey, I get to go to America and make a movie and get nominated for an Oscar and like make other movies and get myself out there so I can do bigger projects if I want or whatever, then that's also fine. You have to do what's best for you, right? And that's probably what he's doing. Give me a second. I'm choking for some reason. Anyways, back to Sing Sing, which is my initial point. Yeah, Clarence Macklin not getting nominated, I think, is one of the biggest snubs of the year. And yeah, I mean, the movie was actually a lot better than I thought it would be, a lot more powerful. It did drag a little bit. It wasn't necessarily long at all, but there was a lot of just like, you know, I guess you have to be in a certain mood for a certain type of filmmaking. But for me, like, there's a little bit of lingering on stuff, and like too much of the same repetitive action happening in every like specific like maybe group scene or whatever. But like there was some decent like comedy to it. There was some really heartfelt moments, especially towards the end. The ending was completely heartbreaking. Like it was beautiful. I must admit, like I am not familiar with Coleman Domingo's real like his career. I mean, I can look and see that he's been in movies I've seen, but like I don't know that I've ever really like noticed him in things. I didn't watch Rustin last year. I guess he's in the remake of The Running Man. Okay, cool. Like that needs to get done. Yeah, I mean, he's been in a lot of things. I just don't know that I've ever like recognized that it's him, you know, like, so maybe if I went back and watched other things, I would be like, oh, okay. I mean, he was in The Color Purple, which I'm not going to see, right? And he's in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I didn't see. And he's in, you know, like a bunch of things that I'm not going to go out of my way to actually watch, but would assume he's very, very good in. But yeah, much better than I thought it would be, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then after that, I went and I watched The Apprentice, which is, of course, the Donald Trump origin story, kind of. It kind of takes place in like the 70s and the 80s, and it's just about him kind of like building his empire and becoming the orange, disgusting monster he is now. It wasn't bad. It wasn't. I thought it was going to be a lot more like left-leaning, kind of like over-exaggerated and caricature-y kind of, but like Sebastian Stan does a really good job. I like that he didn't do like a very like over-the-top modern Donald Trump voice. He just sort of does a very subtle, you know, like there's little bits and pieces and hints and facial expressions and sort of like tonal voice choices that he does that I'm like, yeah, that's Donald Trump. But he's not doing this big over-the-top caricature like that Johnny Depp Netflix special one, or like anything that SNL would do. Like it's a very, very subtle thing. The movie is just as much about Jeremy Strong. I don't know why I couldn't remember his first name. Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn, who's the one that sort of like, in the sense, groomed Trump into the moron and bloodthirsty scumbag he is now. But Roy, the story is just as much about him to an extent. There was a lot of this that I felt like, you know what I was comparing it to in my head, which was what's it? Is it Won't You Be My Neighbor, or is that the documentary? What's the one that's not the documentary? Help me out, people. What's the one that's not the documentary? No, Won't You Be My Neighbor is the documentary. What's the Tom Hanks one that I saw and did not really enjoy because it wasn't about Mr. Rogers? Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. That's the one. I was thinking of it like that, whereas in the sense like it's a movie about Mr. Rogers, but the entire movie is about Lloyd Vogel, like a writer who's writing about him for Esquire magazine. And you're like, you can't really do a Mr. Rogers biopic but then not feature Mr. Rogers. And like at first I was kind of getting that feeling a little bit where I was like, oh, like this isn't really that much about Trump. It's a lot more about Roy Cohn being like an insane human being. But that does switch at a certain point, and then Cohen's not really in the rest of the movie until like towards the end and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, it was better than I thought. I'll say the only thing I didn't really like about it was that like there was too much like ridiculous foreshadowing of things that like weren't a thing in the 70s and 80s for Trump. You know, like there's very subtle nods to like, whose joke is it? Oh, it's a Patton Oswalt joke where he says like, you know, I hope I didn't have this moment, you know, like when in a movie where, you see little kid Jimi Hendrix, and he's walking past a guitar shop, and then he stops and he pauses and he looks at the guitar in the window, and then you go, oh my god, that's so cool, crazy, because he's going to grow up and be one of the greatest musicians of all time, one of the greatest guitar players of all time. And Patton's is like, I hope it's not the moment where in fifth grade I drew a picture of a rhinoceros with a huge dick, and then it turns like, oh my god, that's so ironic because he's the guy who falls in the rhino pen and gets raped in the butt by a rhino and dies. But like, there was a little bit too much of just like subtle mega centric kind of references, not like bold or blatant, but like little things, and like the Reagan thing of like making America great, all that, like, and then Mar-a-Lago stuff, and like hair stuff, like it just like none of that was real. Like none of that happened in 1982 when he was just like a billionaire guy. Like I get that you're trying to like play to a specific audience, but like there was a little bit too much of that. Especially with like, 2024, 2025 goggles on, and you're like, come on, really? Like there's no way that he said grab him by the pussy in 1985, That didn't happen. I'm just saying, like, that's the reference that I was thinking of. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. Visually, it was kind of ugly. I know they were trying to give it, like, it had this real, like, Vaseline on the lens look. I don't know if people will know that reference, but that's like an old porn thing where, like, you put Vaseline on the lens so it kind of, like, blurs the ugly parts of, like, things. Lighting, facial, like facials. Well, that's a bad thing to say. That's a Freudian slip right there. Lines and crow's feet and wrinkles and blemishes. It like kind of just like it smooths things out, but like kind of gives it like this gross looking, like slimy shine to it. There was some of it that just like looked too much like that, and I didn't really care for it. I know it was a style choice, but it's not a style choice that's good. I meant to look up what Ali Abbasi has done. Okay. He did Border, which was troll people banging, and Holy Spider, which I want to watch, but I haven't watched yet. And okay, so he's done one thing I've seen, one thing I've seen, and one thing I want to see. So I guess I'll check that out and see if he's any better at making the other one, because Border was okay. Border was interesting and weird and strange. Was not expecting to see a lot of Maria Bakalova naked in this movie, but I'm here for it. And then after I did that, what else did I do? I attempted to watch Nickel Boys, which is nominated for a few things. I'm just going to say it was not for me. It's done partially in like first person. So like there are times where you are the camera, like the camera is one of the two male lead characters, and there's some parts where they're like reliving the same moment, but like you'll see the entire scene from one of their two perspectives, seeing the other actor, and then the story will move on a little bit, and then the camera will switch to the other one and go back, and you'll kind of see pretty much the same scene but from the other character's perspective. And like it's a bold choice to make everything, a lot of it, first person. I don't know that I liked it. I don't know that it necessarily needed to be there, and I don't know that how much it worked. The way that I kind of described it, I did a review on Letterboxd. You can check me out, Serious Alphas on Letterboxd. It was very much like being in a VR game where the entire game is just being stuck having annoying, useless conversations with NPCs that you can't skip until they give you a quest to go pick blueberries that you get a very, very minimal reward for. Because there was a lot of just like conversations about like with his mother, and then between the two of them, and like there. Now I'm not going to gloss over it. Like there was some kind of dark stuff that happened in this movie, like uncomfortable dark stuff that's implied, but like you never see any of it. And I think because I was so taken out of it because of the first person stuff that I didn't really like pay that much attention to it. So yeah, ultimately it was fine. I mean, I can understand why people like it to an extent, especially like people who are way more film nerds than me. But also, I do feel like there's a part of it where it's like, oh, it's this important story and it's an Oscars movie, so we have to like really get behind it. And it's also like no budget and like a relatively unknown director. I think I don't even know Ramel Ross's. Yep, he's done a movie and a short, and I've heard of neither of them. So, it looks like he might also be a cinematographer. Yeah, just his own movies. Yeah, so, I mean, he's done stuff that I've never heard of before, so just wasn't really for me. So, and then the last one that I just finished today before I started before I started podcasting, was a memoir of a snail, which is the final animated feature I needed to watch. It's Australian stop motion claymation, same guy who did Mary and Max, which I haven't seen, which I don't know why I haven't seen it, because it's been like high on my I need to watch this list for, I don't know, ever. And like I was fully prepared at a certain point to be like, hey, it's a shame this is the second best claymation feature animation because you can't compete with Wallace and Gromit, especially if it's the last Wallace and Gromit. But man, this takes a real mid-story plot twist, and I was not expecting it at all, because it is like this kind of like quirky little like nerd girl talking about her obsession with snail stuff, and then like being a kleptomaniac and like all these things to like fill the hole in her life from being an orphan who gets separated from her brother. Like the I guess the breadcrumbs were there. I just didn't follow the path. But yeah, there's like some crazy, I'm not going to spoil it because I want people to go watch it. But there is some next level crazo mid story stuff that happens that I was like, what the fuck is this? So like you cannot even compare them. This and Wallace and Gromit, like they are not the same thing. It is vastly different. So I couldn't even say it's the second best, because like there's no way to compare them. One is like the most wholesome, like goofy child movie, and the other one is like the most disturbing, like wild, wacky shit. I hope parents don't accidentally let their kids watch it, because it's not good for them. And then, yeah, I think I've seen everything else. I have a list next to me of the things I have remaining. So I need to see A Complete Unknown. I guess I have to see. No, you know what? I'm not going to see Wicked. I don't give a shit. I know I'm not going to like it. I know it's going to be the bottom of my list, so I'm not going to watch it. I need to see A Complete Unknown. I got September 5. I've got it downloaded. I guess I'll watch it. Oh boy, I'm losing my voice or something. I've only seen one of the 4 documentaries, and that's just because it was on Disney Plus, and is about a story about stuff that happened like 4 hours away from where I live. So I was like, I guess I should watch it. It was really good. I hope it wins, but I haven't seen the other 4. I still got to see 2 of the best international features. And then I guess really the only other one that has multiple nominations is, I mean, I guess A Different Man. I could have seen A Better Man. And then all of the animated shorts, live action shorts, documentary shorts, if I ever get the desire to try and look them up and find them and actually watch them. So I'm almost there. I just got a couple more to do, and then I'm all caught up, and then I will be on the YMS Oscars live stream this upcoming Sunday, filling a giant fat ginger tiger sized hole with my slightly smaller brown haired snow leopard hole. I don't care for these words, but I'm saying them. And so I'll be doing that live. So I got a few more days here to get everything completed. Luckily I can powerhouse through Bob Dylan garbage really quickly because I don't care for it. Yeah. And so you can find out what I think is good and who will win, and bingo bango, no more punk, brother. So there's that. And the meat of this podcast is supposed to be the best of 2021. Which, as you can tell by the name of this episode, it's not. Because there were a couple other things that were sort of on the docket as far as what Scott and I had planned that we never really I think we kind of set a timetable for things, but it just never worked out. And then we had so many other things happening, and we were trying to work on Best of 2021 and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, there was a conversation that we had where before we did the Best of 2021, we were going to sort of do like a rundown of hey, here was our Best of 2010. Is there anything you want to change on the list? No? Yeah, okay, good. Move on. Here's the Best 2011s. Do you want to run through it? Do you want to see if there's anything you want to change? Yeah? Okay, what do you want to change? What do you want to move? What do you want to add? Whatever. We're going to kind of do that because, obviously over time, tastes change, or maybe you rewatch something that you had off your list and then you go fuck, that really should have been on the list. And so we were going to do that. And also it was just a way of me really trying to shame Scott into admitting he was wrong because he didn't have Mad Max Fury Road on his list at all, and it was my number one, and it's one of the better movies made in the last 15, 20 years, whatever. I'm not going to do that because it doesn't make sense for me to just do it. The whole idea was for us to talk it out and have conversations about what we were moving and who made bad choices. Mostly Scott, but also I made one bad choice that I regret and wish I could fix. But on top of that, there was also a conversation about making a list of the top 10 for the decade that we have seen since we made the lists, because we made the lists during it was in the COVID time frame. If you're curious, I would say go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or iTunes, or check out Napster, see if you can illegally download it. Kazaa, maybe LimeWire, whatever you're using these days, or just to Scott's YouTube, and go back and find the worst year of our lives presents the best of the decade. I don't remember what it's called, and go and find those episodes. You can find they're all long, very long episodes. If they're in two parts, like this one's going to be, the first episode is sort of all the things we thought were good that didn't make the list. And then I think on a couple of them, we did the top 3 worst and the top 3 favorites that weren't on the list. And then the last episode is the list, the actual top 10. Some of them are like that. Not all of them are like that, but that's how it goes. So if you want, you can go back and check out those lists and re-listen to us talk for hours and hours about the movies we like. And it's not really that funny because for the most part, it's very serious conversation about movies, just like this one's going to be. And so yeah, we discussed about maybe doing a top 10 of the things we've seen that maybe weren't on our radar, or that nobody was really talking about until well after, or we meant to watch and didn't get around to it, and then we watch it since then, and just sort of making a new list of that stuff. So I do have everything written down. I didn't make a list. I just wrote down the ones that I wanted to write down, because I got 26 of them. I already had a hard time getting the list down to 10 for 2021, and I didn't want to have to fight through 26 movies from 2010 to 2019 to cut it down to a list. So I was just going to read off the ones, and they're by year, and they're just ones that I had seen since we did the list that I think are really good. And I will mention if any of them, in theory, could have made the list, the actual top 10, if we'd done changes. You'll notice there might be a trend of some Asian cinema that I have seen in the last year or so. Complete coincidence, some of them. Anyways, if you're ready for more movie talk, it's coming now. And if you're done, thanks for listening to at least the beginning part where I rambled on about other movies that weren't relevant to this podcast. And then you can come back next week when it'll be even more talk about movies. So I don't know what your fucking problem is, pigs. So number 1 I've got on my list. Let me open up my litter box because I made a list of everything for myself only. Not for you. No, not for you. 2010, a Mike Leigh film called Another Year. Leslie Manville, Jim Broadbent, and some other well-known or lesser known but well-known British actors. It's a Mike Leigh. It's very good. It's kind of like slice of life, UK, Britain, whatever. Very well done, very moving. Some good comedy, but then just like some very depressing shit. It's like an old couple who are approaching retirement, and they're very happy. But then over the course of like a year, their friends and families kind of like come in and out of their lives, and their lives are all like, some of them are like completely falling apart, some of them are unhappy. There's just like a lot of like weird sexual tension between like some other characters that kind of involve their entire lives, and death and love and depression and sad. Like, it's very well done. I mean, all of his movies are like that. Very, very well done. Then for 2011, also 2010. Sorry, also 2010 is the Lee Jung-byum action murder movie, The Man from Nowhere, which like had been on my fucking list forever, and I think I just like never got around to it. It's like murder revenge special forces agent. He gets involved in a drug ring kind of thing, because he's trying to keep like the drug dealer's daughter from getting murdered and killed with like all this bad stuff happening. But like, it is very much like a John Wick because this is 2010, and you can see like a lot of bits and pieces. I'm like, the movies don't have anything to do with each other, like they're not connected, but you can see bits and pieces from like the action sequences, the camera work, like the stunt work, that the fighting, like where everything, the camera movement, whatever. Like, you can see a lot of the bits and pieces of John Wick in this movie. There's like an incredible bathroom fight scene in a nightclub. There's like this incredible stare down that is like in the nightclub of like across the dance floor that is just like fucking epic. And then there's like there's like some very cool like use of bulletproof glass, and very, very well done, like incredible stunt work, incredible action, just like a super badass movie. If you like any of the John Wick movies, which would be weird if you were like, I only like number 4. This is definitely a movie to watch. It is on Tubi, so go check it out, because I'm a Tubi boy. Moving on to number 2011. I've got a lot for 2011. I don't know. Or no. Sorry. I don't have a lot for 2011. I have one for 2011. I don't know why I thought I had more. And did I not add it to the list? I thought I added it to the list. Oh, I did. So 2011 is A Better Life, which, if you listen to the podcast, we did the like fixing the Oscars for 2011 for every year, which I believe I gave Damien Bashir my best actor performance. It's like a gardener in East LA who's like trying to keep his son from doing bad shit, and there's just like he's a gardener, a landscaper. He's trying to keep his son off the streets and stopping him from being in a gang. And then there's obviously like immigration officers implications, and then it's just sort of like the life, the hard life of like an immigrant in Los Angeles, which is like very poignant, like very appropriate for now. But yeah, it's a beautiful movie. It's well acted. I like Damien Bashir a lot, although he hasn't done a lot of things recently, or like, and he's in a lot of also bad movies. But like, I like him as an actor. I think he's really good. Does Chris Winston anything else? I did About a Boy, and The Golden Compass. Oh, he did Afraid Aid. Oh, well. You made a really bad movie, sir, but it's not A Better Life, which is a very good movie. Then 2012, I have The Summit, which is, if you remember a few years, well, maybe more than a few, like 2018, 2016, 2015, my bad. There was that Everest movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. This is like the documentary film about that incident in 2008 on K2, which is like the most, I think it's the most people that have ever died at one point on Everest. I mean, obviously it is. It was a shit ton. But yeah, it's like a documentary, and then they have like some dramatic recreations, which I don't really particularly like, but they weren't so bad that I didn't enjoy it. Like, they weren't so obviously like, that's not a conversation that ever happened, you're just dramatizing this. Like, no, it was none of that stuff. But like, I like low key think Everest is okay, like the movie. It's got some flaws to it for sure, but like, I don't think it was terrible. But this movie is like, is very, very good. It's got like it's got a lot of footage from the base camp where they're like looking up and watching everything happen, which is like, if you don't see the actual movie, is very intriguing, because you're like, these people don't know what's happening. But like, if you have seen Everest, then you as the audience know what's happening, but you're living it through the eyes of the like other climbers that are like at base camp, which is pretty terrifying. If it's like, if you're somebody watching your compatriots up there dying, but you don't know what's happening. Yeah, very, very well done. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And then 2013, I'm like 90% sure. Okay, maybe not 90. I'm like 70% sure that I had seen Short Term 12, and it probably got mentioned during the initial 2013 episode, but I rewatched it and like then realized I hadn't logged it on Letterboxd, so I was like, did I watch this? But I rewatched it, or maybe watched it for the first time, and yeah, it's pretty incredible. This is definitely one that I think I would try and move into my best of 2013. I don't know where that movement would be or what it would replace, but I definitely think that this would have moved. I'm pretty sure it's on Scott's top 10. Maybe I should have looked that up in advance. Who's to say what I should have done? But yeah, this is definitely one that I think would move up. It's about, like youth supervisors at a foster care facility for high-risk teens. And she sort of like takes a young girl under her wing who doesn't really want it. And it's just like a very human connection story, very beautiful about, like you're seeing these people struggling through being in the foster care system. There's some really great performances. There's some very like kind of tragic stuff that happens. Brie Larson's really good. I like John Gallagher Jr., who's been in a bunch of stuff I really like. Rami Malek's in it. And yeah, it's got some real like sad, depressing stuff in it, but it is a very, very beautiful movie. And I'm like 90% sure I have seen it. And by 90, I mean 70 or 60, but I have now for sure seen it. And that would definitely move into the list. Another 2013 is Park Hoon-jung's New World, which I also thought I had seen, but apparently I hadn't. It's it's like a Korean it's a Korean gangster cop movie. It's got a lot of the like most famous Korean actors in the world currently. Like Lee Jung-jae, who's Squid Game, and like a bunch of other very famous Korean actors are in it. But yeah, it's like there's an undercover cop who infiltrates a big, huge corporate kind of gang, and he's trying to take down the leader, but then the leader dies. And because he's been in the gang and undercover for so long, there's like a lot of conversation about him taking over the gang. But then there is like a couple of rivals who are a lot more cutthroat than him, and he obviously like doesn't want to blow his cover, but like now that, you know, the guy he was trying to take down isn't there anymore, he kind of has to like deal with the consequences of like, if I take over the gang, I can probably take down the whole gang. But then like the test of, if I take over and get all this power and money, like, am I going to be evil and bad and not come out of this as like a good cop or whatever, right? So it's a very, very well done. I think visually it's only okay. Like, it's not that the most, what do I want to say here? It's not the most like conceptually big movie. I feel like a lot of it is just like, you got a location, so let's kind of put a scene in it or something. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. And there's a lot of like office building stuff and a lot of conversations in rooms that are just a little sterile, but like it's a very well done movie. Like the drama, the acting, the interaction between characters is very well done. Really, really enjoyed it. And then also in 2013, I have Coherence, which, despite me making this list year-based, it is not. Sorry, my letterbox list. So yeah, Coherence, like just a really cool little indie film. Is this guy directing a new Pirates movie? Oh, he's not. Okay. Wait, what? There was it's a short. Oof. I was gonna say, they're making a new fucking Pirates movie. Anyways, Coherence from 2013. Yeah, so it's a nice little indie film, you know, basic location, just kind of like the director's actor friends are in the movie. I don't know if there's anybody who's like big name. I mean, it's actors that if you saw their face, you'd be like, yeah, I've seen them and stuff. Nicholas Brandon of Buffy fame is in it. But yeah, so it's like a bunch of friends that go and have a dinner party at this house, and during the course of the night, there's like these weird astronomical things, like anomalies happening, and it just sort of like, you know, it's one of those things where like a big traumatic event happens, and then it turns out that everybody's kind of a piece of shit. You know, those kind of movies. But it's, you know, like it's very contained, and they can't really do anything to get away from the situation, and so it just sort of like brings out all these secrets and things and how they interact with each other and who likes who and who doesn't like who, and it's just like a very simple watch. It's not that long. It's 89 minutes, which is pretty good. But yeah, the character interactions are really nice. I really liked the vague conceptual aspects of the weird space and time and whatever stuff. Like, I really did enjoy that. Yeah. End of statement. And then going from there, shocker, another Korean movie, because apparently it's all I watch. Kundo, Age of the Rampant. It's like very, very, very cool. Like, how do I compare it to? Like a 13 Assassins, like a Magnificent Seven, like a man, why am my throat is so dry? It's almost like I need water and not energy drink. It's got like a Tarantino-esque visuals, like the way that characters are presented, the way that some of the action is presented. It's like a big Korean ensemble. It's got, like, again, all of the big name Korean actors at the moment who are like very famous for things are all in this movie, including my boy Ma Dong-suk, who was my #1 most viewed actor of last year according to Letterboxd. But yeah, it's like a real it's got kung fu hustle levels of comedy, sort of like some slapstick, and then some like very well timed, humorous little like nicky nacky things in there. That's not a phrase, but whatever. But yeah, great action, great comedy. It's like a, ancient Korea. And there's like, you got to get the band back together to fight this corrupt authority figure. And, yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, it's a very, very, very fun, actiony, Tarantino-y kind of feel to it. And yeah, I didn't really know much about it other than it just had a bunch of Korean. I'm like, oh, I know who that guy is. Oh, I know who that guy is. Oh, I know who that guy is. Don't ask me to remember any of their names because all Korean actors look the same to me. But Ha Jung-woo, Lee Sung-min, like, bigger named actors. And then did the director... Yeah, I mean, the director has done other movies that I've seen or that I've wanted to see. I'm going to check those out because hopefully I like them as much as this, although I don't think any of them are comedies. Like, they're all crime dramas because that's what Korea does the best. Then another one that I for 2014 that I was, again, I thought I had seen, or I confused it for something else, but it's Song of the Sea, which is the same director that did Wolfwalkers, which I know Scott and I both had. I think I had it on my list for sure for 2020. I don't remember if he did. But yeah, it's like a very beautiful sort of hand drawn, like it looks like a paintings, like a watercolor, like hand drawn painting animation, just like Wolfwalkers. If you've seen Wolfwalkers, just like a very beautiful story about a child discovering that she's a sea creature, essentially. And like there's a lot of fairy tale and folklore kind of stuff to it. The voice acting is really, really solid. My literally my favorite actor of all time, Brendan Gleeson, is in it, so of course I'm gonna love it. But yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful movie. It's very easy to watch. It's got incredible visuals, music, and everything. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie, and I really thought I had seen it, but apparently, you can see 7,000 movies in your lifetime and forget that you have or haven't seen things. So, moving on again, man. So 2014 is the year that has a lot, which is hard because I should have looked at what my 2014 list was. But again, why would I prepare for something that I'm in charge of? So yeah, there's a couple that have two that have very similar names. One is A Most Wanted Man, starring Scott Doppelganger, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Willem Dafoe. And yeah, it's like a political thriller set in Germany. Phil Hoffman is doing a bizarre sort of Swiss accent, I think. I don't think it's German. I think he's doing some other accent. But yeah, there's like a Chechnyan Muslim gets smuggled into the country, and people think that he's like a person of interest. And so now there's a couple of different government agents that are trying to track him down because they think he might know information about a potential terrorist attack. And then, there's just tons of like German Islamic fear mongering, and like just when you think they got him, and then they don't got him, and then there's more stuff, like more things come out about other people who may or may not also be involved, and like it's just a really well done political thriller. Also on Tubi, so check it out because I'm a Tubi boy. Did Anton Corbijn do other things that I've never? Oh, he did The American with George Clooney, and a James Dean biopic starring Dane DeHaan. Get out of here. Nobody likes you, Dane. Nobody. Yeah, I guess. And what's this one? This is another James. Oh, it's a Joy Division biopic. Cool. Yeah, very, very well done. Philip Seymour Hoffman is pretty incredible, and he kind of plays out off brand, because typically he's sort of like, I think he plays a lot of very smart people who get annoyed very easily, and in this he's like pretty ruthless. Like he's a very like dangerous, well-trained CIA operative. I don't think he's CIA though, but like he's a very well trained government operative, and he's like pretty ruthless in this movie. He does a lot of things that you're like, that's kind of out of character from, which is great because I mean he was an amazing actor, but also just like I like it when most actors do something outside of their norm and then it actually is like incredibly great. I think a lot of like Bryan Cranston, because like Malcolm in the Middle and then Breaking Bad or every movie he's ever made. But yeah, it was a great movie. Really, really enjoyed that movie. And then the other one that's very similar to it, also from 2014, is A Most Violent Year, which is Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. And it's like a look sort of, it's like an 80s New York, like mafia kind of like doing sketchy under table dealings to get around union work and getting around permits. And, but like it's set in 1981, which is apparently the most violent year, which is the name of the title of the movie. They said it, in New York City history, I guess. And yeah, it's just like, a lot of corruption and like, turning on each other, not trusting people. He is ultimately doing nothing new as far as like a Italian, although I don't remember him being Italian, but he probably was. Maybe he was Greek, maybe he was Romanian. He was something. He was an ethnic. And he's not necessarily doing anything like incredibly different for the role, like of what other people have played, like your Pacinos and De Niro's and whoever. It is directed by the guy who just directed Kraven the Hunter. So there's that. But yeah, I think like the performances are really good. Jessica Chastain is incredible in it. And I also really enjoyed David Oyelowo and Christopher Abbott was also, he had a minor role in it, but he was really good. And there's a really good scene between him and Oscar Isaac where Oscar Isaac is chasing him to maybe try and kill him. And that scene is incredible. So there's that one. And I feel like I'm just rambling, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 more 2014s. I almost could do a top 10 of other 2014 movies. So next one up is, where is it? 99 Homes, which again, I think was on my list to potentially watch for 2014. And I just ran out of time, or like I didn't feel like I was too lazy to download it perhaps. But it's got my close personal friend, Mike Shannon, and Andrew Garfield and Laura Dern. It's got like a really solid cast. And yeah, it's just about like kind of the Florida housing market. And this guy who kind of goes and forecloses on homes and kicks people out. And his company kicks Andrew Garfield out, who's got a young kid that he's looking after, and his mom. And he sort of like reluctantly ends up working for him, and then starts to kind of like become him, like as ruthless and corrupt as he can be. And doesn't really like the way that his life is turning out. But now he's got like a roof over his kid's head, and he's taking care of his family, but like he doesn't really like the way he's become. But like Michael Shannon is incredible in this movie, and Andrew Garfield's really, really good in this movie as well. And the director has done nothing. White Tiger, which 2021, which I didn't watch, and the HBO Fahrenheit 451, which also has Mike Shannon in it. And like a couple, Man Push Cart, which was a big movie in 2005, which I thought was only okay. And yeah, anyways, it's very well done. It's very much about the performances. It's about the interactions a lot between Garfield and Shannon, and then Garfield with like people whose homes he's trying to take. And then there's like, he does like a bunch of scam work on things and fudging numbers and pocketing money. Like it's just like this big, like Florida's a piece of shit and it's full of piece of shit people. My apologies to the several people I know who I'm friends with and live in Florida, but it's sort of true. So, and then again, another 2014 movie, which is La Famille Bélier, or the Bel-Air Family. which is a French language film from 2014 that is the original version of the Oscar nominated Coda, which I saw this before I saw Coda and thought this was beautiful. And then I saw 10 minutes of Coda and was like, oh shit, this is the same movie. And I still think Coda was really good. I really enjoyed Coda. But like, I'm very much the very hipstery thing of me, amongst the several, is that I think obviously I very much like the international version of most movies. Like I could make a list of like this is the US version of a foreign movie that is very good and would be exceptionally good if there wasn't a better international version of it. I just watched Speak No Evil with James McAvoy, and again, like I was like, yeah, this is really good. If I hadn't seen the other one, I would think it was amazing, but you changed the ending so it's not the same. Even though I thought the acting was much better in the English one, the story wasn't as good. Like the way that it played out and everything, the plot just wasn't the same. And then the ending was completely different, which I didn't like. Or like, Good Night Mommy is another one that I can think of where like the original version is exceptional and the ending's great. And then the American version is like, okay, good enough, but the ending sucks because they changed it. But if the original didn't exist, then I would think it was really good. That's what this one is. Like, Coda's really good, but the Family Bel-Air is significantly better. I don't know why I think it's better. I think maybe because I had seen it first, and the comedy is better in this movie. I think like I don't know what I'm trying to convey, but I just felt like the acting for it was like the comedic acting was a lot better. But yeah, anyways, that's just, it's like here, if you don't know what Coda is, well, like, or if you haven't heard of Coda, this is the original Coda, which is that it's a deaf family, except for the daughter who can hear. And she has dreams of being a singer, but her parents need her to like stay behind and work on their farm because she's kind of the go-between piece of the father and people delivering things, people buying things, people fixing things. She needs to be there to communicate for him. And so he's kind of like, this is your responsibility. You need to stay here and be here. And she wants to go off and be a performer. And then sort of by the end of it, the family kind of realizes that they were being selfish and blah, blah. Anyways, very beautiful movie. Very, very, very funny. If you have seen Coda, I still say go see this. And if you haven't seen Coda, I would say see this first or just see this. And then I got two more 2014s. This one I'm pretty sure we talked about when we did the best of 2014, and that this is just probably a rewatch that I'm remembering. But I really, really fucking like this movie. Like, and I know a lot of other people that fucking like this movie too. It says I watched it April 8th, 2021, which is in theory around the time we did those podcasts. So it could have already been mentioned by me on that podcast, but I'm re-mentioning it now. And that is the Jon Favreau directed Chef. It's a movie that has stuck with me ever since I watched it. Like is there a lot going on in the movie? Like, is the movie some kind of big elaborate like plot with twists and turns? And like, no, not really. It's literally just a big fancy chef who quits his job and gets a food truck in Los Angeles. And it's like a ton of food porn and of like making delicious looking Mexican food. And then it's just sort of like, he's interacting with all these other people who make a living doing that, and he's teaching his son certain things, and he goes to Miami and he like does bigger food truck stuff and kind of like a road trippy thing with his son, and he just kind of like, it's just like one of those things where it's like sometimes you need a change in your life to like really kickstart like your passion and the things you love and the things you want to do. And that's kind of what this movie is. And like, it's stuck with me the entire time. I probably mentioned it in 2021 when we did the podcast, and I probably said the exact same things, and I probably didn't put it on my list because I'm a coward, but it's been stuck in my head ever since. And yeah, like that's just how it is. And then I took one more 2014. I got one more 2014. I'm just trying to fix the list so I can go earliest first. Bam. There we go. I fixed the fucking problem. And the last 2014 I have is Koji Shirayoshi's A Record of Sweet Murder. So he's like a pretty well-known Japanese, I almost said Korean. He's a really well-known Japanese horror director whose movies I keep saying I'm going to see, and then I never do. He did Noroi the Curse, Occult, Grotesque, The Girl from the Ring versus the Girl from or the Curse, not the Curse, whatever it is. Sadako versus Kayako. Like a million things, just like all these like very gross, grotesque, as the title was it, movies. And then this one is like a little bit different. There's a lot more like, I don't want to say it's still gross. Let's put it that way. There's still a lot of gross shit, but it's a little bit more plot driven than it is like gross stuff driven. Do you know what I mean? Because like a lot of his other movies, from what I understand, having not seen them because I'm an idiot, are like spooky, scary, gross body horror kind of torture-y stuff. Now, don't get it twisted. This has that. This has torture. It has porn. It has torture porn. But I guess you don't drop nukes on an entire country without seeing the fucked up end result, which is their cinema culture. But yeah, it's a... I don't want to spoil it because I want people to watch it. It is on Tubi, obviously. But it's a murderer who's in the middle of a killing spree, and he goes and gets a reporter to come and interview him while he prepares to like finish his final victim, which he is sacrificing to God. And nope, use your words, dummy. The reporter is like kind of gets entangled in everything, and then there's sort of like a like a moral kind of code, but then also like, do you get involved when you're a reporter? Because there's a part of it where she doesn't really like believe him, and then there's like a lot of twists and turns like towards the end that I'm obviously not going to spoil because I want people to see these movies. But like, yeah, it's got like a lot of like very cool and gross things throughout the entire movie, and I'm gonna have to go watch the rest of his movies so I can be just as grossed out as I was watching this one. Shockingly, there's no 2015, so I guess I watched every movie for 2015. And then, oops, son of a bitch. There we go. Then I go to 2016, and for 2016, I've got Old Stone, which is a Johnny Ma movie, who is a Taiwanese Canadian filmmaker, who's made some really good stuff. And yeah, so I didn't know anything about this movie. I'd never heard of it. I only knew the name Johnny Ma. I don't know that I knew any of his movies, or any of his like work. But like, I saw it at a Blu-ray place and it was like $8 and it like new. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. Like, I'll take a risk on a movie I've never heard of for $8. And I was like really, really impressed with it. It's like, so he's the main character is a taxi driver, and some like drunk asshole gets in his taxi, and while they're arguing about the guy, because the guy doesn't want to pay him, he just wants him, just take me here and drop me off. And while they're arguing, he accidentally hits a guy on a motorcycle and like injures him severely. And the drunk guy takes off, and the taxi driver decides like, well, I have to take this guy to the hospital. And so he takes the guy to the hospital, but then he dies in hospital. And it turns out that like in because this happens in China, and turns out that the laws in China kind of are not the best for somebody trying to save somebody's life, because you actually get in more trouble for picking him up and taking him to the hospital and he dies than if you had just hit and run him and he died. And so now he has to like face the kind of the consequences of like being a good human being, but it's now backfiring and biting him in the ass. And he has to like you know, kind of has to like deal with the guy's family, and then the drunk dude, and then his own family that he has like a lot of problems with. And yeah, so like he kind of makes some good decisions, and he's kind of like trying to get his life back on track, but then like, yeah, the bureaucracy bullshit of China kind of catches up to him and really like fucks his life up, and he's kind of like, and then he kind of downward spirals a little bit. It's only 82 minutes, and like a lot happens in the 82 minutes. Like it doesn't really slow down, which is really nice. And the main actor guy, who I've never heard of before, Chen Gang, who actually hasn't even really been in that many things. He's really, really good. Like I would assume a no-name actor or like a lesser known actor, because he's got like he's got 6 credits, and all of them, it's like one every other year. He did one thing in the 80s, and then like 08, 2012, 2017, 2015, 2017, 2019. So like, he's obviously not like a big time actor. He must be either just a guy, or maybe he's like a director, writer, but he has no credits. So anyways, like he's exceptional. The movie's really good. Like, yeah, it's a really enjoyable movie, especially for being so short. There's just like a lot happening in it. That was it, 2016. So 2017, surprise, surprise, another Korean thriller kind of thing. Where is it? Old Stone. Bam, 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 bam. There we go. Memoir of a Murderer, not to be confused with Memories of Murder. So it's got a very popular Korean actor, Seo Kyung-gyu, who's, yeah, he's an incredible actor, and he plays a serial killer who's got Alzheimer's, and he's retired. Like he doesn't do the murders anymore. He's not actively doing the murders, but his daughter brings home a guy who starts giving off little vibes and hints and things that he might be a serial killer. And so now he's sort of like, it's a race against time of like, will his dumb brain forget the things he knows before he can stop this guy from murdering his daughter? Or will he become too feeble to do anything about it, and now his daughter's dead? There is like some reveals as you go along of like his past, and then like interactions with the husband or the boyfriend guy. And yeah, like a really solid performance by like all 3 leads, the Seo Kyung-gyu, Kim Nam-gil, and Kim Sol-yoon. They're all like exceptional. Really, they do a really good job. But yeah, it's like a really interesting look at serial killer and the kind of history he has, and then the final showdown at the end of the movie is like pretty interesting. It's like a really good twist at the end that's pretty unique. And yes, like I really recommend that one. That one maybe would have squeezed into the list, maybe, but it's hard to like take things off, especially because the next movie on the list for 2017 would definitely have moved onto the list. So which again, shocker, another Korean movie, although there's a lot of English in this movie, so it's not necessarily a Korean movie. It would be Jang Hoon's A Taxi Driver, which 1000% was on my list to watch, and I was like, yeah, I'm watching this, and then just never got around to it. because you can only watch so many movies when you're doing a podcast. Also, it was over 2 hours long, so at the time I was probably thinking like, if I skip it, I skip it. Now I'm disappointed I skipped it because I think it definitely would have been on the best of 2017 for sure. So yeah, it's got Song Kang-ho, who I think most people would know from the dad in Parasite, but also every Bong Joon-ho movie, and then also every like big Korean movie for 25 years. But yeah, so it's set in May 1980. He's a taxi driver in Seoul, and there's like, you know, politically in real life there was like a big coup, and the president sort of like quarantined off an entire town where the military did some very terrible things, and they kind of did like man, that microphone can pick up that airplane. That's crazy. Man, I've got such bad ADHD, but I can hear a plane. Anyways, he does a media blackout, and so nobody knows what's going on in the town. But then a German tourist comes, and he's trying to hire a driver to take him there because he's heard that I think he lies about being does he lie about being UN? Maybe UN or maybe Red Cross or something, that like he's going to go in to do medical help, and turns out that he's like a journalist from Germany who's heard through the talking with secret locals that have snuck around and found information that there was a massacre that happened there, and he hires the driver to take him. But like the driver doesn't know that because the guy's paying him cash, and it's like a big trip, and he's got a young daughter that he wants to like help out. So he's like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll do it. And then along the way, they sort of meet like resistance from the military, and then all of his sort of taxi buddies get involved and kind of are like, you know, this is very dangerous. Like, you shouldn't be taking this guy. And he's like, yeah, but he's paying me a lot, so I should probably do it. And then eventually they get to the city, and they kind of realize like, wow, like fucking atrocities have happened here. And then they get found out by the government, by the military, and they have to like escape and everything. And it is a heartbreaking movie, especially like it went towards the end of the movie when they sort of like stuff happens. It's just like very, very heartbreaking and like a tough watch, especially like when you realize like, oh, this is all real things that happened. Maybe not the taxi and the German reporter, but like reporters, and got in. And yeah, there was like, you know, you really don't think like, oh, South Korea was like a terrible place in the 80s. You're like, South Korea is a cool place, and you're like, yeah, it is now, but it wasn't then. So yeah, it's a real dark, got some dark moments in it, and some very like stressful like gunfighting and like running and hiding from military, and like, yeah, really, really well done movie. I definitely think it would have made it into my 2017. I don't know what it would have replaced. I'd have to actually look at the list and say like, probably this. I got those somewhere. I just maybe on this computer, and I can just open it right now, but I'm not gonna do that. Is that it for 20? No, I've got 1, 2. Oh, a lot of 2017s. Man, an hour and a half. Okay, let's get moving here. I'm talking too much. Though that's what you're here for, so shut up. After that is I've got the Joachim Trier, who did a movie that I will be talking about next week for 2021. It's Thelma, which I really liked. It's Norwegian, Danish, Denmark. What are we talking here? Norway. It's all the same thing. Who cares? They're all white. It's a Norway thing. And you're not going to know this, but I just had to take on about an hour and a half break to deal with bullshit. Anyways, it's a Norwegian thing. It's the same director that did something in 2021 that's going to be talking about next episode. But yeah, it's like sort of like, I'm assuming it's meant to be a sexual awakening movie of it's a college student who's escaping from a sort of conservative repressive Christian family who goes to university, kind of like discovers herself, and in the midst of like discovering herself and all of her like emotions and stuff, that she's got like like very, very powerful like telekinetic powers that manifest themselves whenever she has like very intense or serious thoughts about something or someone. And over the course of the movie, it's sort of revealed that she's had these powers all along and had kind of forgotten that she had them because there was like something that occurred to her in her past that sort of, like resulted in a big thing happening. And then her father specifically, treated her very poorly. And then now that she's an adult and she's kind of discovering herself again, and these emotions and things happen, that the same thing happens again, and now she's got to deal with that as an adult. And then, yeah, I'm not going to give away too much stuff because, again, I want everybody to watch these movies. But yeah, like visually, it's like, it's relatively, it doesn't have like a huge budget, and like any of the visual effect kind of stuff is like subtle, but like good subtle. It's not like it doesn't specifically look like a we didn't have money kind of thing. It looked more like a we don't want this to be a main focus of like what's happening kind of thing. And so yeah, like I think it's really got like a lot of just like very powerful stuff. It's got like a lot of subtext and like really big conceptual ideas. But like, yeah, it's very, very good. And that it probably maybe would have pushed into the top 10, but there's a lot going on in 2017. And with the other one, like with, I said, Taxi Driver already did, and Memoir of a Murderer might have already done. It would be hard to push in, but yeah, it's still like incredibly good. It may like. Maybe after this, I'll take a look at my 2017 list again and see what's going on with that thing. Oh, believe it or not, my throat is killing me from talking so much. Next up, again, another 2017, because I still have a bunch of 2017s to go, is a Taiwanese like crime thriller called Who Killed Cock Robin, which I know the title is very stupid sounding. But it was another one of those like very random, like I was at the local Blu-ray place, which is called Sunrise Records. It was Canadian, and it was like another one that was just like I never heard of it, but I really enjoy Asian cinema. It was in the thing. It was like $9 or $8, something like that, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll take a risk on something that like could in theory be very good. And man, did it deliver. Like it's got a lot. So like it's basically a journalist who years previous had witnessed a hit and run, but like it was kind of just like not that big of a deal, right? Like it's just like, I'm not saying hit and runs aren't a big deal, but it's not like a huge like big criminal investigation. It's just like your typical hit and run. And now years later, a bunch of like new clues has kind of come across their desk, and they're like, maybe there's more to this than I had originally thought. So like I'm gonna start digging and looking into it a lot more. But then there's like there's one, like the final like survivor of this hit and run, like this whole incident, goes missing, like disappears suddenly. And then now there's like, okay, man, there's like a lot more really like going on to this than just a simple hit and run that, kind of got swept under the rug and everything. And, like, honestly, if you want a, like, that escalated quickly ending to a movie, that this is the one where you're like, holy shit, did that go like in a direction I did not expect, and very quickly. yeah, I'm obviously not going to give anything away. It's not on Tubi. I thought it would be a Tubi film. I think definitely go out of your way to watch it. It's quite like really, really well written. The plot and twists and turns and like the directions and like choices the characters make that you kind of think like this is the obvious answer, and then you're like, what if let's go this way, and then you go this way and you're like, holy shit, that's way different than I thought it would be. Yeah, very well written, very directed. It's directed by the same director who did, I don't know if people have heard the Tag Along. There's 2 Tag Along movies from 2015 and 2017 as well. I believe they're both on Tubi. They are both on Tubi. That are both like pretty good, like a ghost children possession kind of movies that I like both of them. But yeah, it's a very well written, very well directed. I would highly recommend going and seeing if you can get a hold of that and watch it. Is that it? Oh, and there's still 2017s left. The next one I got is, again, I feel like maybe this one was mentioned when we recorded, because it does say on Letterboxd that I have reviewed it twice. So that potentially means that I did mention it. But let's see, March 2021 and June 2018. Okay, then it probably definitely got mentioned on the pod before, but it's just like, I'm sorry, it got mentioned on the best of 2017. But it's just definitely something that has like really stuck with me in my head over the years of like since I've seen it the first time. And that's a Shot Caller. It is Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, pretty much at the peak of his popularity, because this is right in the middle of the whole Game of Thrones business. So he's like a regular, just like kind of a rich dick, and him and a bunch of friends go out for dinner and they get drunk, and while drunk driving he kills somebody, and they sort of like make an example of him because he's rich and he has a good lawyer, and kind of just assumes that he'll get like a little slap on the wrist or whatever. But they kind of make an example of him. And so he goes to prison and in Southern California, and he like kind of reluctantly has to become a neo-Nazi in prison, just because like, I mean, I know it's a kind of like a cliche stereotype of prisons, but like I haven't been there, so maybe it's true. But yeah, he kind of has to like forced against his will to kind of join the white supremacists in prison, and then over the course of his time in prison, he kind of gets more involved, and it just becomes like who he actually is. Whether or not he believes the things he's doing or whatever, it kind of doesn't matter, because he has to do what he has to do to survive. And it's also got like a pretty great performance by John Bernthal, which there is a very popular meme of him that is from this movie, which I like was again before he had really like in the middle of Walking Dead stuff. Now, obviously this was filmed years before that, but whatever. And it's directed by the same guy who's done like a lot of the Gerard Butler movies as of late. Your Kandahars, your Greenlands, your Angel Has Fallen, your second Greenland movie, the next Has Fallen movie. He's that guy. But yeah, it's just really stuck with me. A lot of the visuals. There's like a really brutal. There's like a lot of very brutal prison fights and violence, and then of course just like the themes of like, it's not who he was before he went in, but now that's who he is because of the situation he's been put into. And like, yeah, it's just really stuck with me over the years. So I must have mentioned it because I watched it in 2018 originally. So it must have gotten mentioned, but I'm just mentioning it again because I think it's a fucking good movie. And finally, the last 2017 I got on the list is an Indonesian horror movie called Satan's Slaves. I didn't usually bring up a lot of horror when we did these things, just because I don't know. I feel like ranking horror movies in as far as like the best movies of the year is a little bit more subjective than like, let's say something that has been nominated for, like, you know, that wins the Palme d'Or, or like something at South by Southwest. Or, I mean, I know that horror movies can do that, but it is a lot harder to be like, yeah, this horror movie is on par with, like, you know, Her or Mad Max Fury Road, or any of the movies that we had in our top 10s. It's just a little bit harder. I mean, I obviously had The Wailing. We had I Saw the Devil, which is pretty much a horror movie. Like, there are other horror movies on there, but like this one's like pretty much a horror, like a straight up horror movie. It's Indonesia, and it's a mother returns to like a small town after her strange illness, and she's going to get her children back. And it's just like there's a lot of I didn't realize that it was a reboot of an 80s film with the same name, but that's interesting. I mean, it's got a lot of good visuals, and it's very creepy. Especially, like, there's a lot of nighttime scenes that are very off-putting and just kind of scary. And then they're making a sequel to it. The director also made, sorry, I was distracted. He also made another one called Impetigore, which is also very good, from 2019. And I guess there is a Satan Slaves sequel in 2022 that I have not seen yet. But it's on Shudder, so I guess I'll watch it. He also made, that movie's not very good, but yeah, anyways. Sometimes I like to just give out like some horror related stuff, just some shout outs, just to kind of like put some stuff in there. And then 2018 is the most recent movie I watched, literally like 2 days ago, which is the 2018 Korean film Little Forest, which I had heard so much about in the past, but I think I kind of thought that it was more of like a romantic comedy kind of than it was like a romantic dramedy. Like, I thought it was going to be kind of like, especially if you look at the poster is like very Korean-y, kind of like TV drama, TV comedy. Like, it doesn't look like it's a high budget film. And so I kind of think I just like unintentionally stayed away from it. Until like I just kept reading things about it and was like, oh, okay, like obviously this is not what I think it is. And I mean, it's beautiful. It is an absolute beautiful movie. There's so much that is just like human connection and human interaction with not only like each other and like loneliness or like the world or being sad or just like the things that happen in your life, but just like the connection to food and how food is connected to your memory of your life. And it's like a ton of like, much like I said with Chef, it's a ton of food porn where it's like, if you enjoy watching people make delicious looking food from like step one to finish and then watching those characters eat the food, that's a lot of what this movie is, because it's like reliving sort of your life through the beauty of the food. It is a lot of Korean food, obviously. I mean, it's exclusively Korean food because it's in Korea. The only real thing that I didn't care for, and it's a stupid thing to care about, is I did not care for the amount of times that characters in the movie ate tomatoes as if they were apples. It is disgusting, and it made me want to throw up. Like, there was a scene where it's a flashback to her and her mom. They are sitting under the shade of a tree, and they are eating these like enormous heirloom tomatoes as if they were like I mean, I'm going to use a terrible apple, maybe the worst apple. They're eating a red, delicious apple, and they're just like eating it like normal. And I'm like, ugh, disgusting. And it's like, for me with tomatoes, it's the texture and it's a little bit the fact that it's so watery inside and the seeds. That's what it is. I don't hate the taste. I just don't like the texture. And it was disgusting to watch and listen to them eating the tomato like it was an apple. Made me sick. But yeah, it's a beautiful film. It is pretty simple in the story and the plot and the way it moves. The acting is really good. There's like a little bit of a love triangle, and then there's like past trauma with your family and just like revelations, but like nothing too crazy, too wild. There is just a lot of making delicious looking food, growing your own vegetables, harvesting your own vegetables. But if you just want like a nice, chill, easy watch, it is on Tubi, and I suggest you watch it. A couple more left. I got 2018's The Night Comes for Us. It is another Indonesian film, and it is. Oh, I didn't realize he directed that. Interesting. I'm not going to try and butcher the guy's name, but Timo is his first name. Yeah. So it's like an ultra violent, just like bloodbath of protecting an elite assassin guy. Saves a girl's life during a massacre, and then the bad guys who wanted her killed are just constantly coming for him in every situation, and he just has to like fuck everybody up. And it is just like constant mayhem. If you'd imagine with the amount of like times you've seen an Asian like violent, graphic, actiony murder movie, that like this must be happening all the time in real life there. That's why this happens so much in movies, which is like just insane. But like, yeah, there were so many dead gangsters. Like he massacres people with machetes, like shattering skulls, slicing people in half. It was just like, it was absolutely crazy stuff going on. There was the main girl character who kind of grows into her own of being like at least a sidekick or accomplice. And in my initial review on Letterboxd, I wrote, the Elena character needed to do, so that's the main villain, I think, that I wrote that about. The operator. Yeah, Elena the Third Lotus. She's one of the villains. One of the good guys. Yeah, sorry. I wrote that she needs to do more. She was but Marge, the little guy hasn't done anything yet, and when he does, it's going to be awesome. She really was that kind of person in this movie. But like, yeah, if you like just like insane bloodbath movies that just like have no right being as ridiculously awesome as they are, this is definitely the movie for you. Yeah, it's on Netflix, and I suggest you check it out. That was 2018, and then I got 2 2019s, and then guess what? We're done for now. This is the second most recent movie I watched on the list. It was probably like 3 days ago. That would be 2019's Queen and Slim. It's Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith, and it's directed by a lady. And it's I think I'd seen a trailer for it when it was initially like coming out, and thought like, yeah, like I'd like to see that. And then it didn't get a Blu-ray release like right away, like when it should have been released. And like sometimes that's how I watch a lot of things. And so I didn't see it get released. So I was like, okay, obviously this movie's bad and it didn't do well. And then maybe like a couple years go by, and I just happened to randomly see it somewhere and was like, oh shit. But then it still took me a little while to watch it, because I buy a lot of things and then don't get to them right away. And so this was the second most recent thing I had just watched. And it's pretty wild. It's got a lot of really cool stuff in it. It was exceptional performances by Jodie Smith-Turner and especially Daniel Kaluuya, which to me is not surprising, because he's got some really, really incredible dramatic performances. Like, he's incredibly believable in those roles. He obviously won an Oscar for Judas and the Black Messiah. He was nominated for Nope ? Or Get Out ? I think he's had two very big snubs, one even more so than the other. I think not getting nominated for Nope, and the fact that Nope got nominated for nothing, was absolutely insane. But he was so fucking visceral and powerful and just like unstoppable in Steve McQueen's Widows, which again also didn't get nominated, which is not as crazy because it's not as good of a movie, but like his performance in that movie, I consider like one of the biggest snubs of the last like 10 years. Like, he was so goddamn good in that movie, and he's very, very good in this. Yeah, he was. It's a pretty dramatic movie. A lot of hectic stuff goes on, like a lot of running from the police and trying to like find ways to get around doing certain things or avoiding things. There was a little bit of like too coincidental of a thing happening all like right at the exact time that I don't really like, but I get why it's in the movie. But like, there were a few things where I was just like, oh, like, of course that's going to happen so that they can get away right now, or they can whatever. I didn't really care for that as much as it was intended to be. But overall, like, the performances were really good. It was really nice. There's a lot of like good long shots of like distance driving, which I don't normally care for, but was like pretty nice in this. Then I guess they didn't give anything about the plot, but whatever. Yeah, it's a young couple who goes on their very first date, and the date doesn't really go that well. But then on the way home, they get routine traffic stopped by a white cop, who then, during the course of like unjustly searching them, gets into a fight sort of with Daniel Kaluuya, who then the cop accidentally shoots Jodie Turner-Smith in the leg. And then Kaluuya gets the gun and shoots the cop, and then they have to like flee essentially and try and get away. And so like the whole movie is just them kind of using people they know or like certain connections to try and escape. They're going to try and run to Cuba, and then it's just like a police chase from there. And I think the ending is pretty good. I think I wanted a little bit more from it, but I guess it makes a lot of sense, like the way that it played out. So I guess I can't really be mad about it. It's on Prime Video if you want to check it out. And the last one on the list is 2019's The Art of Self-Defense. I think it's a movie that not a lot of people saw or talked about. At least in my circle, I don't think I really heard too many people talking about it. And of course, like as I've said in the past, like typically I don't care for Jesse Eisenberg. However, he majorly redeemed himself this year. The movie he directed and stars in this year is, bold prediction, is my favorite movie that is nominated for an Oscar this year, even though it's not nominated for Best Picture or Best Director or Best Lead Actor. It's only nominated for Best Supporting Actor, which is rightfully so. Kieran Culkin deserves to be nominated for that. Anyways, I typically don't like Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know what it is about him. It's not even like that. I honestly, I think part of it is because I do associate him with Mark Zuckerberg, but like, I just don't typically feel like he has that much range in the choices he makes. I think he is a relatively capable actor, but I just feel like he gets kind of trapped in playing the exact same character, or at least a version of the exact same character, right? Like neurotic, kind of nervous, but kind of smart guy who just kind of has a series of just like really, really dumb and unfortunate things happen to him over the course of the film. But like, he's kind of likable, but he's kind of hateable. So like, I think that's mainly why I don't like him. However, like, there are times where something will come up and he'll do something completely different, and it works, right? Like, this is completely fucking bonkers. Like, I did not have any expectations, but like, he was pretty good, and he played a slightly less over the top version of what he normally does. He played a lot less like neurotic and nervous than he normally does, which is great. But like, maybe like a little bit more autistic and subdued than a hyper and nervous one. But like, this is like dark comedy like almost at its peak. This is like a Cable Guy. This is an Observe and Report. And as far as like the tone and the dark comedy, and then just like, there are some very unexpected, like, graphic things that happen, and the plot and story actually go in a direction that you don't really think it's going to go necessarily. And like, there's a lot of good, Alessandro Nivola's really good. Imogen Poots is really good. There's just like a lot of very weird things that just kind of like happen that you're like, oh, I was not expecting that from this kind of movie. But like, it is awesome. It is very, very good. It is also on Tubi, so I recommend you see it. But yeah, it's like Jesse Eisenberg's character, he gets like attacked at random on the streets, and in order to sort of like protect himself, he goes to learn self-defense from like a dojo sensei. But then kind of realizes that like the sensei is a little bit unhinged. He's a little bit crazy, and starts kind of acting weird and different, but he's still convinced that like, this is good for him. This is what he needs to do. But then it just gets like completely like, there's like hazing, like bullying, for like weird stuff like that just like further pushes kind of like the limits of what he feels like he can do and be there and like learning. And but like, by the end, there's just like so much wacky shit that happens, and like, yeah, very, very good dark comedy. I don't think people looked at it as that when it first came out. I think they just looked at it as like, oh, this is like some like a straight up comedy with Jesse Eisenberg in it, which is probably what I would have done had I not actually like watched the trailer for it and then was like, oh no, this rocks. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend checking out The Art of Self-Defense as well. I mean, I recommend checking out all these things on the list. I don't know if I'll do a poster card for it like I've done for the other things, but I did make a Letterboxd list, and if you want to check it out, I will share it on Letterboxd, and then you can go and see what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's kind of I think we were kind of hypothetically thinking of a name, best since we listed or something like dumb like that, but I can't remember what the actual name for it was. But yeah, that's my best of the things that we've watched since we did those initial lists from 2010 to 2019. And hopefully that wasn't too boring for everyone, because if you don't like movies, we can't be friends. So yes, next week will be the next episode, which I'm going to schedule to drop on Friday, will be the first part of the best of 2021. It's going to be all the honorable mentions. It'll be the worst movies and probably favorites, but it depends how fast I talk or how long I go. And then the next episode, which I'll probably try and schedule for, well, it'll be probably next Wednesday. Give me a time and place next Wednesday. It is the 5th. I think I have a dentist appointment on the 5th. So we'll see. It might be the 4th. I think I'm going to try and do it on Tuesday, but it might also be Thursday. I don't know. I'm not going to commit to anything right now because, again, you're greedy pigs and you don't deserve it. Like I said, Sarah and Softpaws on the social medias, and follow me on Letterboxd so you can see the list of my best since we listed, and paypal.me/SarahandSoftpaws for anything you want to give me because you love me and you're nice, or you can pretend like you're giving it to Scott and I'll pass on the good word, or All request spectaculars can happen again. So if you got a movie and you want me to watch it and talk about it, I'll do $50 for anything 2 hours and 10 minutes. Or if you want me and, let's say, a Caden Talbane Kelly Summers, or a Greg Sage, or a Lawrence Wong Larry Wong, or whoever else is stumbling and fumbling about in the world and wants to come do a podcast with me about a dumb movie, most likely, then it'll be $100 for said movie. Me 50, two people 100, or we can make a deal if you talk to me about it. That is all. Please enjoy, and hashtag PAB